James Carter, a humble farmer, risks his life to save a stranded family from a raging flood one stormy night. The family, a man, his wife, and their young daughter, are moments away from being swept away, but James bravely rescues them without expecting anything in return. Years later, James finds himself struggling financially, with his farm on the brink of foreclosure. Just when he is about to lose everything, a wealthy man arrives at his doorstep. It turns out to be Daniel Harper, the same man James had rescued years ago. Now a successful businessman, Daniel has never forgotten James' kindness. In an incredible act of gratitude, he pays off all of James' debts, ensuring that the farm remains his forever. Hi everyone, welcome to Kindness Talks. Today I'm excited to share a new story with you. The rain fell in torrents, drumming against the rooftops and turning the dirt roads into rivers of mud. Thunder rumbled through the valley, shaking the wooden fences and rattling the windows of a small farmhouse perched on the edge of town. James Carter, a humble farmer, stood at his window, watching the storm rage across his fields. He had lived through many storms in his 50 years, but something about this one sent a shiver down his spine. Then he saw it, a flicker of movement near the bridge. Squinting through the sheets of rain, he could just make out a car, half submerged, trapped in the rising floodwaters. His heart pounded. Someone was inside. Without hesitation, James grabbed his old raincoat and a length of rope, barely pausing to shout to his wife, Margaret. "There's someone out there," he called as he rushed outside. The icy water swirled around his boots as he waded toward the bridge. The car was tilting dangerously, the current threatening to sweep it away. Inside, a woman clutched a little girl to her chest, while a man pounded on the window, his face twisted in fear. "Hang on!" James shouted, looping the rope around his waist. With every step, the water pushed harder against him, but he pressed on. Reaching the car, he yanked the door open. "Come on. I'll get you to safety." The woman, eyes wide with terror, hesitated. "My baby, please." James grabbed the child first, cradling her against his chest as he fought his way back to solid ground. He turned just in time to see the car lurch violently as the current pulled at it. The man and woman screamed. James lunged, gripping the man's arm with all his strength. "Hold on." He braced himself, digging his boots into the muddy earth, straining against the water's pull. Inch by inch, he dragged them both free, just as the car was swept away in the roaring flood. Collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath, the rescued family clung to each other, sobbing. The man turned to James, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "You saved us. I don't even know your name." "James Carter," he panted. "Just a farmer trying to help." The man gripped his hand. "I'll never forget this, Mr. Carter. Never." And with that, their paths parted. Years passed. The flood became a memory, and James continued working his land, battling droughts, rising costs, and an aging body. His farm, once thriving, had begun to struggle. The bank loomed over him, threatening foreclosure. He had given everything to the soil, and yet, it seemed, it was no longer enough. One evening, as he sat on his porch, staring out at the fields that had been his life's work, a sleek black car rolled up his dusty driveway. James stood, puzzled, as a well-dressed man stepped out. His suit was crisp, his shoes polished, a stark contrast to James' worn boots and faded flannel shirt. "Mr. Carter?" the man asked, his voice warm with familiarity. James squinted. "Yes, that's me." The man smiled. "You saved my family years ago. The flood, you pulled us from the water. My name is Daniel Harper." Recognition dawned, and James nodded slowly. "I remember. I'm glad to see you well." Daniel's gaze swept over the farmhouse, the tired-looking barn, the struggling fields. "I heard about your troubles," he said. "I built a company from the ground up after that night. I swore I'd find a way to repay you one day. And now, I can. James stiffened. I didn't do it for a reward. Daniel chuckled. I know. That's why you deserve this. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded document. This is the deed to your farm. Paid in full. No more debts, no more bank threats. It's yours, forever. James stared, his rough hands trembling. His voice broke. Margaret stepped onto the porch, her eyes filling with tears. You gave me my life, Daniel said. Now I'm giving you back yours. James swallowed hard, then pulled Daniel into a firm embrace. Thank you, son. You didn't have to, but, thank you. That night, for the first time in years, James Carter slept without worry. And in the morning, he rose with the sun, walked out into his fields, and knew that kindness, no matter how small, always finds its way home.